Let's talk about some underrated and overlooked tax sale investment strategies. Now, first off, before we get started, my name is Casey Dimon and welcome to the Tax Sale Podcast. I am your host. I am a tax sale veteran. I'm the author of the Tax Sale Playbook and founder of the Tax Sale Academy. Now, tax sale investing is full of opportunities. Many investors will flock to the most obvious strategies, but today we'll be talking about a few approaches that can yield some pretty impressive results if done correctly. Now, I'm all about thinking outside the box, and these strategies do exactly that. Whether you like them or not, there are people making money using each one of these strategies. At the very least, whether you use these exactly or not, hopefully these strategies will provide some ideas that you can build your own from. Let's dive right in. The first one is targeting smaller auctions in very remote counties. This is one of my favorite strategies by far, but a lot of people overlook it. Most new investors are drawn to the biggest, most well-known tax sale markets. But here's the thing. Those markets have high competition, inflated prices, and razor-thin margins. It is a battle to see who will do the most amount of work for the least amount of money. That's not a battle that I want to get myself into. Instead, consider remote counties where auctions are smaller and they're less competitive. Yes, it does take a lot of effort in a lot of these places where they don't have the advances in technology and the budgets for the same types of technologies and processes that these larger counties have. Many of these places don't even have the auction details online, and some sales are still in person. But you need to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do the extra legwork, because 99.9% of people watching this and 99.9% of tax sale investors will not. This might mean you actually have to contact the county, pick up the phone and ask them about their tax sale list and how you can get a copy. Or maybe you have to travel to the county and drive there and gather all this information yourself. Now, that could mean driving an hour or two, or it could mean flying across the country. You have to figure out the risk-reward ratio for you and your business. But why are these remote auctions such a gold mine? Simply put, most investors want the convenience that is offered by the big auctions online in these big counties. But if you're willing to put in the extra effort, you can uncover properties that have far less competition, meaning much lower purchase price and higher profit margins. It is not uncommon to attend auctions in rural areas where you're the only bidder for the property that you are interested in. But keep in mind, selling these properties does require some unique strategies. You're marketing to a different audience using different marketing methods, so make sure you have a solid plan in place. Let's move on to some more creative stuff. The next one are going to be abandoned projects. This is one of those strategies that can seem very, very intimidating at first, but it has the potential for massive, massive rewards. One of the very first videos that I shot and put on YouTube over a decade ago in rather poor and embarrassing quality, I might add, was shot in a development that I purchased. Yes, an entire residential development. It was an abandoned project. A partnership had folded, funds dried up, and they lost it due to taxes. Now, that particular development was already approved, platted, and even had the initial pavement, curbs, and gutters installed. I ended up flipping that development to a local developer for a significant profit. Since then, I've done this with several abandoned projects, including subdivisions, commercial developments, and even industrial sites. Now, here's the deal. You must do your homework. These types of things can be extremely intimidating to most people, rightfully so. So I highly suggest taking the time to get copies of the original developer's agreement if it exists. Check your zoning requirements, check the land use, check what is approved there, and understand the infrastructure that is already in place and what it will take in the future, whether you do it yourself or you resell it to somebody who will. Be prepared to spend a lot of time researching these projects. And unfortunately, understand this, not all of them will pan out. But when they do, the returns can be incredible. One project I worked on required months of due diligence. including conversations with county officials, engineers, and even utility companies, all at a time where I had no idea whether I'd win that property or if there'd be 10 other bidders wanting to pay substantially more than I wanted to pay. But in the end, the time that I invested was very, very worthwhile because I bought that development, then I ended up flipping it for more than 9 times what I paid for it in just a matter of months. The lesson here is very simple. If you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to take on something that's a little bit intimidating, abandoned projects, when they do pop up at these tax sales, can offer some of the best returns in tax sale investing. But they don't happen every day, and they do require a substantial time commitment that just might not pay off. But when it does, you'll be well rewarded. The next one is pre-auction buying and partnering. And there's 2 aspects to this. Here's how it works. You can use the tax sale list as a lead source for motivated sellers. Now, these are property owners who are on the verge of losing their property to a tax sale. Reach out to them through mail, social media, or other means and offer to buy the property from them before it goes to auction. Now, I've got episodes on this strategy and I teach about it inside the Tax Sale Academy, so I'm not going into too much detail, but this approach will help you avoid the competition of the auction, avoid some title issues, and it can often be a win-win situation for both you and the delinquent taxpayer. Now, if the owner is not willing to sell outright, consider partnering with them. For example, you could offer to pay the taxes in exchange for 25 to 50% ownership in that property with a legally binding agreement that the property will be sold or that you'll have a lien attached to that property. Now, this approach will give the owner peace of mind because they aren't forced or rushed to sell their property right away at a fire discounted price. And it also helps protect some of their equity while allowing you to profit from the property's upside. One of the members inside the Tax Sale Academy has had incredible success utilizing a version of this strategy. He's been able to secure numerous properties by offering creative solutions to distressed owners. What he'll do, he'll check title, make sure there's no outstanding liens or mortgages. He will pay the taxes in exchange for a 25 or 30% ownership interest in that property. Then him and the majority owner will work together to sell that property at full market value. When it sells, he gets the money that he paid for taxes back plus a chunk of the equity in that property, while the remaining ownership equity, while the remaining funds, the net proceeds, will go to the property owner who was once delinquent on their taxes. Now, it's a bit more complex and is not something that I have ever personally tried. Not sure I ever will, but the potential rewards do make it worthwhile. And if you're comparing that to somebody that just wants to buy your property, it will certainly make you stand out if you want to take that path. Again, a little more complex. You need to make sure you have all your ducks in a row, but it can work. The next one is buying redemption rights. So in redeemable deed states, it allows us to have this unique opportunity of buying out redemption rights. Here's how it works. Let's say you're a tax sale investor and you buy a property at a redeemable tax deed auction. Now, the former owner is going to have a set period of time to redeem that property, which means your money's going to be tied up for 6 months, 12 months, maybe up to a couple of years. Instead of waiting for that redemption period to time out, you could approach the former owner and simply offer them a few $100s to sign over their redemption rights. This allows you to sell the property faster, often at a significant profit, without having to tie your capital up, as long as somebody that is not utilizing this strategy would have their capital tied up. Now, in the end, would it make that much of a difference? It depends on your strategy. It depends on the capital. It depends on what it means to you and your personal financial objectives, but it is something you could explore. Alternatively, if you missed out on a property at an auction, maybe you just happen to see it after the auction over, maybe you're at another auction, whatever it is, and you want to buy that property, here's what you can do. You can approach the former owner. Say, listen, you just lost this property to a tax sale, but it is under the redemption window as of right now. What I want to do, I want to give you enough money to redeem that property, plus put some money in your pocket, and then I'll become the owner of the property. So you're basically buying it for the delinquent taxpayer and the tax sale investor, the person that bought it at the auction. They'll, of course, get their money, their interest, but you end up with the property. Now, if this is a property that you spot on a tax sale list from maybe a month or two ago and it's just a home run type deal, it might be worth trying to step in to see if you can redeem that property and buy it from the delinquent taxpayer. Just remember to carefully calculate your costs, do your title research, all that good stuff, and make sure your returns are there before pursuing this strategy. And of course, dig into state laws so you know the process and how they apply to you. The next one, campsite lots. These are often 1/10 of an acre or less properties designed for camping. And then most of the time, they were originally developed and sold many, many decades ago. Now, these properties are often dismissed as worthless because they aren't buildable according to a lot of local investors. But here's the thing, the value is in the eye of the beholder and who you're able to sell and market that property to. Think of who might be interested in: campers, hikers, RVers, and outdoor enthusiasts, all of which make up parts of industries that have seen historic popularity lately. Those buyers don't need a buildable property. They just need a property they can park or set up camp on. Now, obviously, you don't want to get stuck with them, so the key is knowing how to market these properties to the targeted audience. Something else you need to do is make sure you check local laws to see how often somebody can stay on the property, as many areas have the maximum stay limits of maybe 30 days or 60 days or 6 months a year, whatever it might be. Make sure you dig into local laws to see what they say. I've sold campsite lots to individuals who were thrilled to have weekend getaway spots, even if the lot itself wasn't ideal for traditional use like building a house. It's all about targeting the right buyer and finding that buyer for the property. Because at the end of the day, what they do with the property, we don't care as long as we're able to profit. Next one, let's talk about recreation or amenity lots. Now, these are similar to campsite lots, but these properties may not even be accessible, or they might be physically unusable, but they can provide access to very desirable amenities. So, for example, in certain areas with a lot of ATV or snowmobile riders, owning a lot might grant access to private trails in those areas. Similarly, in some HOAs, people will buy unusable lots just to gain access to the amenities of the HOAs like pools, clubhouses, and private beaches. Here's an example from a couple years ago. I purchased a very small, unusable lot in an HOA. The lot did not front an actual road. It was on a road that was platted, but it was never paid for whatever reason. Now, the property itself, because you couldn't even access it, had very little value to me, but the ownership of this lot did provide use of the homeowner association amenities for a monthly fee of $35. Now, hear me out. This included access to a boat ramp on a private lake, a really nice lake actually, access to their pool, access to the gym, access to the social hall, and discounted golf rates. So even with the cost of the lot, which I think was like $1,500 or so, and the nominal $35 a month, that was a phenomenal deal to the local buyer, because for $1,000 plus $35 a month, he had access to a private lake, a pool, gym, social hall, discounted golf rates, all sorts of other amenities as well. And he was thrilled to be able to have access to it for a very, very nominal amount of money, as long as he pays those $35 a month dues, which, by the way, you can't even get a membership into a gym for less than that in most areas. The takeaway is this: always think outside the box. Even if it appears useless at first glance, there might be some hidden value into it. So there you have it. There are some of the most overlooked and underrated tax sale strategies that could transform your tax sale investment business. There are people making substantial amounts of money off of ideas that you or me might be scratching our heads about. But it's all in the approach and the execution of the plan. Whether you use any of those examples or not does not matter, but hopefully this has provided you with a few examples of ways people are making money in this business that are a little bit different from mainstream. Hopefully you can take these and apply it to your own tax sale business. If you're ready to dive deeper into the tax sale investment business, be sure to check out our comprehensive training platform at taxsaleacademy.com. Hey, take care, folks, and thanks for listening to the Tax Sale Podcast. Make it a successful day. Bye-bye.